What's up, y'all? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today, I'm going to be doing another movie review of someone in my life's top 10 favorite movies. And I'm going to be doing my mom, Miss Stephanie Wilson. I've done my wife's top 10 favorite movies and my brother Sawyer's top 10 favorite movies. And their scores I'll share at the end for comparison. Well, I guess I can just tell you. Were in 85 for Destiny and an 84 for Sawyer. So we'll see how my mom edges up to those two. And I mean, let's just get into it. Well, no, let's not get into it. I feel like I do that every video. I say let's get into it, and then I decide I need to say something else. So my mom has a pretty eclectic list, and I think I'm excited to share my thoughts on it. I enjoyed watching a lot of these movies, and whenever I ask people to do this, I tell them they don't have to rank them one through like from 10 to 1. They can just give me the top 10. They don't have to rank them if they don't want to. But she did, so I'm going to review them in that order. This is not my ranking from 10 to 1. This is her ranking from 10 to 1. I'm also going to say that I say this in every video. Just if a movie on here gets a low rating, that does not mean that I don't think this movie should be in this person's top 10 or it's even a bad movie. My rankings are based on my enjoyment of the movies, and I'll also break down whether or not it is a good movie or not. Now, shout out to my mom for doing that, for narrowing it down to the top 10 and for putting them in order, because it's not a hard thing to do. I suck at narrowing stuff down and ranking. That's why mine ended up at a 25 and not a top 10. So thank you to her. She has some honorable mentions that I'm going to honorably mention right here. And it's kind of funny. 4 of these movies were in my top 10, and one of them would be if I didn't do a franchise clause in mine. They are Elf, Christmas Vacation, Forrest Gump, and The Martian, and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. My personal favorite is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, but Part 1 is really good as well. Let's just go ahead and get into it. At her number 10 spot, she had Rain Man, which I had never seen Rain Man before, but I did watch it, and I enjoyed it. I'll say this: it's definitely a somewhat dated movie. I'm not sure if it quite holds up very well, but I'm not gonna hold that against it too much. Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman obviously both give great performances. It's a sweet story about learning acceptance. You see good character growth from Charlie, though I will say I feel like there wasn't maybe as much character growth as there should have been. And I know we live in a much more accepting and inclusive world now, but just he was pretty brutal to Raymond throughout the movie. And I don't know, I feel like there wasn't a ton of character growth from him, or at least near as much as there should have been, though. I digress. And I will say the ending, I didn't love the ending. I kind of wished they would have ended up staying together just because it's a movie. But I understand that maybe that was probably not the best thing for Raymond. But it did feel kind of rushed and abrupt at the end. Like it ended way quicker than I thought it was going to, even though I can see how much time is left in the movie. I just thought there was a lot more. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. So at number 9, my mom had The Green Mile, which I've seen a few times. I actually watched it earlier this year. I love Tom Hanks. I think he's like the best actor of all time. For me, it would either be him or Leonardo DiCaprio. I think this is one of his greatest performances. I don't typically love Stephen King, but this isn't necessarily a spooky Stephen King adaptation, so I do enjoy it. It's like The Shawshank Redemption, where it's not spooky, it's not scary, it's just a good story. It's a very emotional story with a lot of weight. It has a great cast full of characters that are very well portrayed, and even though it is very heavy, it feels light in the sense of it's not serious the whole time. There are still sweet moments, and there are still funny moments and silly moments, even though obviously the whole premise of the movie is pretty dark. The kind of flashback style is something that I do enjoy, which is something in one of her other movies here at number 7, which I'll get into as well. But I like the flashback style of a character looking back at something. I love the reflective ending of Paul Edgecombe and how, whether he's thinking of whether his life was like this gift that he was giving, whether it was a blessing or was it a curse. To me, I think this is one of Tom Hanks' best performances, though I don't even think he's the standout actor in it. I think it's easily Michael Clarke Duncan as John Coffey. He makes you root for him, and he's just such a sweet character. And that just makes the outcome that much more emotional. 8.5 out of 10 for The Green Mile. At number 8, we have E.T. the Extraterrestrial. So I watched this movie one time as a kid, and I did not get to finish it because Elliot's brother, who I don't even remember his name right now, he said a cuss word near the end of the movie, so my dad turned it off. So I never knew how it ended. So I watched it in its entirety for this video, and it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. The acting, especially coming from kids in this movie during this time, is extremely impressive. It's a compelling, inventive story that was very revolutionary for its time. I'm saying like I was there. And honestly, my biggest critique with it is with E.T., just because I'm not sure what they were going for with his character, if he was supposed to be cute or kind of freaky looking or gross or what. But anyways, I think he was kind of freaky, which kind of made it less sweet to me. But anyways, 7.5 out of 10. Obviously a great movie. So next up at number 7, I mentioned it's another movie with the flashbacks, is The Notebook. The Notebook does it so well, just with James Garner, and I'm actually not sure who the actress who plays the older version of Allie is, but I think it's so sweet. Dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that definitely hit for home with me, since that's something that my papa struggled with, and so it really plays the heartstrings, and I think it's very sweet how invested the Duke is what they call him when he's old. I think it's Noah. I think it's sweet how invested he still is in her, and how he still just wants every day, like, to show her how much he loves her, and just to get that, maybe even it's just that 60 seconds of her remembering him. Now, The Notebook is strange though, because it does make you root for one of the most toxic couples. Obviously they're sweet when they're old, but when they're young, they're extremely toxic. James Marsden, I love James Marsden. He actually went to my high school, so that makes me even more of a fan. He gets shafted, even though he's a great dude, at least from what we see. But gosh, Ryan Gosling is just so dang charismatic. It's like, I was talking to Destiny about this, and I said pretty much the reason that The Notebook is going to get the good rating that it's going to get from me is because of Ryan Gosling and how amazing he is as an actor. The chemistry between him and Rachel McAdams is incredible. Now, I don't condone cheating or toxicity personally or any of those things, and I don't think it should be glorified. But I will say this. In movies, there is the trope of a person having the one, and it makes it a lot easier to justify, quote unquote, those things. And it's kind of hard to fight against that when these people have the one. Now, I don't think that's a thing in real life. So I don't think that any of those things are acceptable in real life, and I don't think they should be glorified. But I will say it's definitely different in movies, because if you're looking at a movie and deciding, yes, this is how I should base my life, you have other issues. So I'm going to leave that up to you. It has many, many iconic moments and lines. It's one of the best romance movies ever. It's like the Nicholas Sparks, like The Notebook. Like, that's what he's known for, and he has a lot of great stuff. 8.5 out of 10. In her number 6 spot, Mrs. Wilson here had Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. Now, I actually had to ask her, because originally she just sent me and she said Pirates of the Caribbean. And I just wanted to clarify which one. And she said, I would really have to go back and rewatch them, but I think the first one. And I agree. I think it's the best, the strongest entry. And I think the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy as a whole is one of the best. I know there's more movies, but the first three is just one of the best movie trilogies. I would probably give it like a 9 out of 10 as a trilogy, which maybe that's spoiling my score, but I don't really care. It's not that deep. This movie was so close to making my top 25. I actually don't think I mentioned it as an honorable mention. I don't think I honorably mentioned it, but I should have. I think it's the best of that series and of that trilogy. Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley are both great. Jeffrey Rush is great. All the other supporting actors are great. But I mean, Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow is just one of the strangest and best and most iconic acting performances of this century. I mean, he literally got an Oscar nomination for it, which is just crazy for the fact that it's a Disney movie. It's a silly action movie. It's a huge blockbuster. Like, that just shows you how good his acting performance is. Despite all those things, he was nominated for an Oscar. And I I think I'm probably annoying when I watch movies. I probably would not want to watch a movie with me because I'm the kind of guy who's like, oh, did you know? Or, oh, you know, the reason it's filmed this way. Or, oh, behind the scenes. And I was telling Destiny, she actually ended up falling asleep, so my analysis must not have been very good, that Jack Sparrow's character was meant to be a very minor character in the overall story, but then they cast Johnny Depp and they were like, wow, he's so good at this. They just made the whole story about him, which I think is hilarious. What else was I gonna say? Obviously, it's a great film. It's hilarious. It's so funny. Every time I watch it, I still laugh. And it has some of the best action, like fight scenes and choreography that I've ever seen. The different action set pieces across all three movies, but in this one specifically, since that's what I'm talking about, is just so clever and well done. And I think this is one of the few movies that did not make my top 25 that is going to get a 10. That's only 9 fingers. A 10 out of 10. So at number 5, my mom had Pride and Prejudice, the version from 2005 with Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden. I guess she just loves Keira Knightley, apparently, which I didn't know. Trying to look like Keira Knightley. We've been there, we done that. So I'd never seen Pride and Prejudice before, and I'm not sure quite where my expectations were. I don't love like period dramas or historical dramas or like historical period romances. I typically find them boring, at least in concept. But I will say this, I love Bridgerton. So do with that what you will. The first half hour, I was not super invested in this movie, I'll admit. But I did end up really, really enjoying it. The chemistry between the two lead actors is good, though that I feel like they don't have great like sexual tension chemistry, but I don't think they're supposed to. But they have really good chemistry, like talking to one another and, you know, emotional chemistry. I personally also really enjoyed Donald Sutherland's performance as Mr. Bennett. I thought he was absolutely hilarious. I thought Tom Hollander's performance as Parson Collins was pretty good. And I think it's a really sweet story. Even though there's a decent amount going on with a lot of different characters and different things, it doesn't get confusing. And I know it's based on a book that was written like, I think in the early 1800s, I think like 1813. Like this movie on its own holds up really well, and the directors or producers, writers, whoever did a great job of making it feel very, very modern. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So this is pretty strong so far, and I'll give you a hint that it stays pretty strong. Number 4 is a movie that I doubt there are very few movies that I have seen more than this movie, Finding Nemo. A combination of it coming out at the perfect age for me. I think it came out, I want to say like 2003. Yeah, 2003. So I was like 2 years old. So it wasn't old enough to where it was an old movie by the time I could actually watch movies, and it was one that we had it on DVD, so it was always on at my house. It was one that whenever we would watch a movie at school during music class or whatever, it would always be Finding Nemo. It's my mom's favorite Disney movie. I've seen it so many times. It's definitely a top tier Pixar movie, and it uses the Pixar method that they use in other movies like Up, of just hitting you right in the gut from the very beginning with the death of Coral, Nemo's mom. Yeah, that's right. I know her name because I'm legit like that. It's a visual masterpiece. I don't know. I have no idea how the cameramen were able to hold their breath for so long, especially that deep down, but I don't know. It's the kind of movie that I'm sure that I'll love even more when I become a parent. And I think even now, though, I can recognize how good it is. 8.5 out of 10 for Finding Nemo. Now, number 3, Pretty Woman. Now, similar to The Notebook, this glorifies things that maybe it should not. Like when it comes to the relationship dynamic. I watched it for the first time for this video, and I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought I would. I really enjoyed Richard Gere's performance. I mean, Julia Roberts is like the queen of rom-coms because of this movie. I think it's a sweet movie. I think it's very fun. I actually didn't realize, I was telling my parents this, I knew that she was a prostitute. I didn't realize that he actually hired her like just to come hook up with him for the one night. I thought it was like he went out seeking someone like, hey, I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend. But I mean, that's just what I knew about the movie. I don't know. It literally doesn't have anything to do with my review. I'm just talking. 8 out of 10. Number 2, Dirty Dancing. So I had seen this movie before with my mom, but I rewatched it the other day. And my main comment from this movie is that Patrick Swayze is fine, like super fine, like for real, for real. And he's also a very good actor, very good dancer. I think he and Jennifer Grey complement each other very well. It has a great soundtrack. Time of My Life, She's Like the Wind. It has great choreography. Shout out to the GOAT, Kenny Ortega. That's my boy. I grew up on Kenny Ortega. And it has that. It's good if a movie has multiple iconic moments and iconic lines, but really all it needs is one iconic line or one iconic moment, and this has both with The Lift and with Nobody Puts Baby in the Corner. It has both. That's really what it needs. 8 out of 10. Now, I thought going into this that Dirty Dancing was my mother's favorite movie, but I was wrong. At number 1, she had a movie that would easily be in my top 20, maybe even my top 10 if, like I said earlier, it wasn't for my limit of one movie per franchise. And it is Marvel's The Avengers. My mom, she just gets it. She is the mother of 2 sons. She got dragged to a lot of quote-unquote boy movies, which I don't think that there's movies. I know there are target audiences for movies, but I think anyone can enjoy any movie. But superhero movies, I think, are targeted for boys, and she got dragged to a lot of them, and typically she loved them just as much as me and my dad and Sawyer, and obviously that stands true with Avengers being her favorite movie. It's a top 5 superhero movie ever. I know the reason she likes it better than some of the others, like I kind of mess with her sometimes. She does not like Captain America Civil War because she hates the fact that they're fighting each other, and it just makes her very sad. But I mean, Avengers, this is not news to anyone. I'm just going to say it. It's like the first movie to really pull off like a team up the way it did with like building up to it. Like everything else that's tried it with DC and whoever else, it's kind of not really worked out. And the MCU, even though it's in a rough point now, I think it's still doing really well, but I know other people don't agree. It started off so strong. I think obviously Iron Man and Iron Man 2 and Captain America and Thor, those movies are all good. But what makes them even better and what makes the MCU, I think what made the MCU so revolutionary was Avengers. It's a top 5 superhero movie ever, up there for me with probably like The Dark Knight and movies in that vein. Obviously Endgame is my favorite of all time, but I still do really like the original. It was a truly revolutionary movie. It's a fun movie. It's an extremely rewatchable movie. And I have to agree with my mom that it's one of the best. 10 out of 10. So I'm going to go through and read my scores again. I already added them up, so I'm not going to have to do it on the spot because that's been rough when I've had to do that and do the calculator. And so I'm just not going to do it. But I will reread my scores. Rain Man got a 7 out of 10. The Green Mile got an 8.5 out of 10. E.T. got a 7.5 out of 10. The Notebook got 8.5 out of 10. Pirates of the Caribbean got a 10 out of 10. Curse of the Black Pearl. Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl got a 10 out of 10. Just wanted to specify. Pride and Prejudice got an 8 out of 10. Finding Nemo, 8.5. Pretty Woman, 8. Dirty Dancing, 8. There's been a lot of 8s. And The Avengers, 10, which comes to the grand total of, drumroll please, an 84 out of 10. So she ties. It's a dead tie with Sawyer on these movies, which I think is just absolutely hilarious. Still didn't dethrone Destiny, but I will say that I am kind of surprised how well these did with how many quote-unquote chick flicks there are, though I do enjoy a good chick flick. I didn't think that this list was going to do as well as it did, so shout out to you, Mom. You picked a good list of movies that I enjoyed. I love you, and you guys stay tuned for the next video. It's going to be my sister-in-law, well, not the next video. The next video like this will be my sister-in-law Olivia's top 10 favorite movies. I watched one of them today already, and I'm going to watch the other 9 here soon. I'm not sure what the next actual video will be. I guess it just depends on my release order. But stay tuned for that too. Peace.